Twitch presents our next big thing. Something long promised, but never delivered. Getting paid for using Twitter. For how many long years have you toiled for free on this God-forsaken site? What a mess. What a shame. What could have been. But now Twitch is here to save the day yet again. You'll finally be getting paid for all your hard work.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another Sharpe conversation. I am your host,
Hotep Jesus dude.
I am that Hotep Jesus dude. I have a very, very wonderful conversation lined up for you today. But before we do that, let me just pay the bill. Shout out to Syscoin. Syscoin just released their new NFT platform called Luxy, Luxy. Make sure you go check that out if you're looking to purchase, invest, or create an NFT, support an NFT project. Go check out Luxy. Their chain is going to probably give you better gas fees than some of these other chains. So I would definitely check out Luxy immediately by Syscoin, and check out the Syscoin project for all of my blockchain developers out there looking to develop on the blockchain. Check out Syscoin. Also, Men of Order is our official sponsor for all things men and masculinity. Check out menoforder.com. Super block for men. HotepCon, August 11th to the 13th. Make sure you are there. Get your butt in a seat in front of me and Uncle Hotep as we broadcast what's just been told you live with our special guest, Kim Klasick, Sonny Johnson, Crypto Wendy Yo, the largest female crypto YouTuber on the planet. And, of course, Project Rook will be there as well. Shout out to Twitch. I'll be sending all my controversial ideas to the blockchain technology called Twitch. Twitch is the official Twitter competitor and sponsor of HotepCon in this channel. Or actually HotepCon. Anyway, let's get into it. Mr. Boyd, thank you for gracing my channel. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes. We got to chopping it up. What was it, yesterday, the day before?
Yeah.
And I found something rare. I found something that people don't often find. An older black conservative. Now, I don't want to go ahead and label you a black conservative, or a conservative for that matter. But today you probably would be labeled as such. You have some conservative leanings. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well, I would consider myself more of a transcendent independent because I'm just wherever truth is and empirical data. I like to follow the numbers. So the numbers really, are everywhere. There's some truth in everybody's story. So. I try to avoid labels because sometimes, it creates a barrier, and some people, unfortunately, will lean away from you if you wear your label.
Yeah, if you were to say, "Hey, I'm Republican," and you go, "Ah."
Right. So
why do you think that is? Why do you think people are so apprehensive to some of these terms?
It's all about tribalism and, the team. That's my team. And, I'm down with the team A, and people really get rooted and grounded in the price for being associated with a certain team, and that is a certain loyalty, ideologically, philosophically, and sometimes people can't see through that. So my loyalty isn't to the Republicans or conservative, or my loyalty is to what I call universal truth, not my truth, because I don't own truth, and
I want to say the media, man. It feels like the media takes these terms and does such a good job of scrutinizing them, and then lambasting them. At the end of by the time they're done, the term Republican smells like shit. Right?
Yeah, that's politics. It's a blood sport. So
Yeah.
It's weaponized. The definition. I mean, it's divide and conquer. It's locking down your base so that they're afraid to really interact with the other ideas. Developing a cult following, a lot of brainwashing, all that. So one of the things I appreciate about you is even though I do hear some conservative leanings on particularly on some issues, and I think you and I can agree on some very basic issues. But I don't see you as you can tell me otherwise, as like a staunch conservative. I see you as someone that basically explores truth.
Yeah. I think you and I align in that manner where we'd probably fall in line under independent.
Right.
Yeah. I would not consider myself a black conservative. I've been described as a black conservative. I remember one time some black guy from some media outlet wanted to do an article on me and something, and he described me in articles of black conservative. I'm like, yeah, you gotta change it. I'm Hotep. Don't call me a black conservative. For me, it's just rare to see somebody. Like, usually when I run across somebody your age, I'm like, all right, here's somebody who I should be careful with what I say politically, because if they find out how I think, they're gonna look at me crazy, right? I think the only one that was on my side was my aunt Lona Mae. My aunt Lona Mae was gangster, and I remember we was at a family gathering at my grandmother's house, and I'm young and stupid, I guess. It's a few years back, and I said, I basically let it be known, like, yo, I'm backing Trump. I got Trump, right, in the election. And my aunt Lona Mae was like, yeah, and I got her started up. And she like the oldest one in the room. So she like, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with these niggas. Trump is the one. You need to vote for Trump, not that Hillary. So it's like few and far between people kind of get it and others don't. Why do you think our people, especially in like, the older demographic and the boomers and such, why do you think they're so left leaning?
It's just basically just the culture and socialization is a big deal, and then I don't think the Republican and conservatives really understood the power of culture and the power of really connecting to people on an emotional level. As you know, our people really appreciate people that work hard to identify with the culture, and not only that, just historically, we've had leaders that have guided us in a certain direction. So our people are very loyal to our political leaders, and ever since the civil rights movement and subsequent to that, and even some time before that, our leaders have pointed in that direction, and we trust. We have a lot of trust in these leaders. Very people understand that leaders can be bought, and whole systems can be really usurped and captured. And so you really have to think independently. You got to think for yourself. You got to do your own homework. You got to read, and it's going to lead you into some places that may not be the popular ideas. So. I've always been a person that really took the time to read for myself, to pursue knowledge myself, and it's led me to some places where I agree with some things, but I don't agree. with other things, and I'm not afraid to speak.
Mm, mm. You mentioned leaders, and black leaders are definitely criticized heavily. I find that we don't have an intellectual class. The intellectual class I find to be dismal at best, banal, repetitive, co-opted, communist. And it also seems like because we don't have an intelligentsia, or our intelligentsia is exclusively reserved for entertainers. Right? Election
Right.
comes around, they not calling our intelligentsia, they calling Cardi B.
Hmm.
First of all, it's like a two-part question here, but the first part I want to know is who would you consider if you had people make top 5 rappers, who's top 5 intelligence minds in America today for Black America specifically? And then we're talking about specifically, scholars. Doesn't have to be formal or whatever, but specifically people say, okay, if we had an intelligent mind and a group of intelligent minds in the Black community, here's the people I would select. What will be your top 5 today? Can't be dead though. They got to be alive.
It's a tough question because it puts me out there in terms of like, if I start if I start really dropping names, of course you're going to drop Thomas Sowell. You and I agree with his scholarship in the area of economics, um, but a lot of our people haven't had a chance to really bond with this intelligence and really appreciate like his universal excellence. Not only in terms of really delivering uh, excellent knowledge to the Black community, but just all people. He's educated more CEOs probably than any other economist
Mm.
in modern history. Uh, and it's unfortunate that he just doesn't get uh, the credit, and he's stigmatized because he doesn't really follow the orthodoxy politically. Uh, then we got so by naming names is going to put me in a situation where uh, you know my personal views can really be misconstrued. I like some of the some of the great theologians on the scene. Um, uh, I
Okay.
don't agree with some of the approaches of Jake's, but when Jake's is in the pocket,
Mm-hmm.
I have really seen some things from his ministry that were quite impressive. But then again, there's some things that he and if I were to sit down and we're in the same room with him, I would probably, with all due respect, say to him, like, did you really think about that?
Mm.
Uh, you know, we got some great business leaders, Mr. Chenault, uh, you know, uh, we in the business community, we got some emerging great executives, both female. We got Phyllis Newhouse, who works for Colin Powell, who's really emerging. We got Melody Hobson in Chicago, who is preeminent businesswoman. I think she's also on the board of Starbucks, if not one of the probably chairwoman.
Mm.
In the political arena, that's a little risky there because, uh, you know, uh, Clarence Thomas, he's been lynched. A lot of people don't understand his work. He's definitely the most dominant Supreme Court justice, and some of his work I wish people could really understand and give him a chance, a more fair hearing. Some of his stuff, some of his opinions, I definitely don't agree with, but there have been opinions that if people really gave him a fair hearing and really judged him in terms of a total breadth of his work, uh, he is this definitely one example of in terms of some of his work of Black excellence. And then, of course, you got the hip hop community. You know, we got the best some of the best rappers. You know, Jay-Z is up there, not just because of his you know, his artistic style and things he's been able to accomplish, but just as, you know, as a person in the business arena, how he's been able to navigate through some really tough situations. And I think we got to give him credit for that. I work personally with Kanye. Yeah, you know, he's a brave guy, and then because of that bravery, he's just gone places that no man has ever gone before. And there's a lot to be said about fearlessness, because I think real knowledge is sometimes beyond the borders of our comfort zone. So probably, you know, when that guy wants to do something, like he's just kind of unstoppable. Led him to
How you get connected with Ye?
I connected to my daughter. My daughter is a recording artist with Rock Nation. And, we were doing some stuff out at Robert Smith's ranch. She got invited to sing out there, and then you know, Ye wanted her to do some co-producing. She actually helped to produce or write 3 songs on this Jesus is King album. While she was in California, he kept talking to her about the school and what he wanted to do, and she's like, "You got to meet my father. This is just like above my pay grade, but I can tell you this, you know, you meet my father." So they both called me on the phone, and she said, like, "I got Kanye on the phone. He wants to talk to you." I said, "Okay." You know, he flew me in 2 days later, and we bonded and built a pretty good relationship from there.
What exactly did he want you to do? What was that first meeting like when you first met Ye? And was he like, you know, hey, let's sit down, let's have drinks? Or he's like, get like right to business? Or what was that vibe like?
Yeah, it's a guy in motion. He's always in motion. So
right, that's what it seemed like.
I met with him in Calabasas. You know, so I already had prepared. So I had an educational thesis, and he had some PhDs in the room because he likes to roll with like the best in class, you know, in any area. And so we were in the car together, and I put on my educational thesis, and this was one of the top private schools in California. They heard my thesis, they were blown away, like, whoa, I need to send that to you. So, you know, after that, we, you know, began to do some consulting with him on educational matters. And, you know, I'm more of a theologian, but I homeschool, you know, my children's mother and I homeschooled our children. And so we were part of the homeschooling movement in Detroit in the 1990s. So we definitely understood, you know, how to build educational systems independently and how to pull together resources, you know, and we're really proud of the education of our children.
What's in this thesis that was just blowing people away?
It basically talked about children are born with this innate sense of self-determination, and to the extent that we can connect with that, because the individuals are driven by interest. So children come into the world asking, "What is it?" You know, the great question, "What's in it for me?" They see things through the prism of of self-interest, and meeting them at that point of identifying what those interests are is the first order of business, but also understanding how to grow that interest. And I asked the question, you know, why are the greatest educators in our system coaches, not teachers? You know, coaches are getting way more productivity out of young people than math and science and English teachers. Why? That's because these young people are interested in sports, and they understand a relationship between sports and the greater world of success. You know, that it's at least in their minds, they believe that sports is going to take them to the place where they can realize some of these dreams that they have. Now, it's going to be a connection between education and practical life. Like, you know, education can't be taught in a vacuum, in isolation. People have to understand, you know, if I do this, you know, what is it going to mean to really advance me as an individual? And so you have to really appeal to that buy-in, that skin in the game, and children very early understand it. You know, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6 year old, they have interest, they have self-determination, they have a sense of like, what's in it for me. So we went, you know, through these principles, and according to these, you know, experts, it made a lot of sense. So you can't just impose all of these external ideas on students without having negotiating with them in terms of their interests and building on that. And I think we'll do much better if we really think about that in terms of how we design our curriculums and our school environments, and you know, because it is a greater conversation. You know, young people are human beings, are individuals,
right?
And, you know, they deserve that level of respect. Not to say that they shouldn't be guided, they shouldn't be challenged, they shouldn't be mentored, they shouldn't be inspired by people that are more experienced than them. But that meeting place is what I focused on. That place where the two minds come together.
Self-determination. What's in it for me? That's gonna stick with me for life. That's pretty profound. What's in it for me? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So what exactly did you do with Kanye? You worked on his presidential campaign, and talk to me about that.
That's something that came up. I had nothing to do with you know, how that was formulated. It's my understanding that Kanye announced in 2015 or something that he was going to run for president in 2020. So this is something that was in the public domain, in the public space. So you know, my responsibility was really to support him, to be a spiritual support, moral support, and I emerged among his advisors and counselors as one that had some really good handle on politics. I had studied it for a long time, and it could really add value to the conversation. So they tapped me to be a part of the campaign, and also I took the time to write his political platform. So you know, it's a very interesting journey, to say the least. But you know, that's
Was that on the road? Was that remote? Was it, you know, Kanye called you once a week? What did that look like? Paint that picture.
No,
for me.
I worked directly with them on the ranch in Wyoming. So
You was at the ranch.
yeah, I was Kanye's roommate at some point.
Are you serious?
Yeah, really close. They're like, Mr. Boyd, you're my roommate. So
He was Kanye's roommate on the ranch in Wyoming.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
I'm still in Wyoming. Yeah. He left, I stayed.
You're still out there. You're on the
Yeah.
ranch right now.
No, not on the ranch.
Oh, you
Different
stayed in the
ranch.
state.
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
like the state.
Yeah, you like the state? Yeah, I know. I was just
I gotta
out.
get you out here, man.
Huh?
I gotta get you here.
Yeah, definitely. Idaho. I visited, and it's just like, you know, it was one of those places where you're like, yeah, I never moved to Idaho, until you go to Idaho and you're like, you know what? I could kind of live out here. So I see what
Yeah,
you're saying, where you went out there and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna stay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I still travel, but it's really a good place. And you know, his ranch was a good place. So it was a good experience in terms of really being able to see the world through his eyes
Yeah.
to the extent that I could.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, this platform definitely supports Kanye West. Our viewers support Kanye West. Kanye West is, I remember arguing with somebody one day. I'm not gonna say who the other rapper was, but there was another New York rapper, and he was telling me that Kanye West wasn't gonna be bigger than him. I said Kanye West is gonna be bigger than him, and it wasn't Jay. It's not Jay Z. It's somebody who's like, I actually like that individual, but Kanye's like, in a whole nother stratosphere of superstar. In the stage of his career right now, and he's a billionaire. And I kind of foresaw that, because at a time when everybody was, you had to sell drugs or shoot people up in your music, Kanye was talking about pink polos and backpacks, Louis V backpacks. So he changed the game. When you see that, you kind of go, okay, this person's got staying power because they're not afraid to do their own thing.
right.
Yeah. Damn, that's amazing, man. I wish I could have
It's that
swapped.
fearlessness. It's that fearlessness. So, as you know, because I can see you're one of those fearless guys, it just takes you into places that the average person tends not to go there, and there's a lot of things to discover when you walk in fearlessness. So,
I feel like it's nothing to ever really fear. It's just the fear of the unknown itself is really what's. But once you defeat that fear, you realize these ultimate dreams. Like I had grandiose dreams for myself, and now that much of my bucket list has been checked off, um, it's almost surreal to look back and say, "Wow, I came this far,"
mhm.
But all because I had that I don't care attitude, and that's just what I love with Ye. That's why I've always been a Ye fan. Um, so you worked on his campaign. Did you ever do the Sunday service thing?
Oh yeah. I was in Sunday service a lot.
Yeah,
It's a great experience, and uh, you know, it. Did you ever have an opportunity to attend one of those services?
they was all the way out in Wyoming. I was here. I was like, I don't know. Don't you
Uh,
need a ticket or something like, or somebody to get out there? I was like, I don't
Most
know.
of them were actually in L.A. at the Forum, I think, or one
Okay,
of those big stadium type.
right.
Understand, but the travel, uh, yeah. But to answer your question, yeah, uh, I was definitely in a lot of those, and of
I know
course,
those are like spiritually powerful.
very powerful. Um, the director Jason White, very innovative brother in music, and they achieved some great things musically and inspired a lot of people. And so it was a good thing to be a part of it.
Yeah, Sunday service is dope, man. I remember just seeing clips coming out online. And I'm like, man, I wish I was there. Yeah. Oh, but nah, it seems like I like the collaboration, right? So when people like talk about Kanye being this narcissist or whatever, I like to go look at his credits. And when you go look at his credits, you see the amount of people he hired to work on a project. And he hires a lot of people to work on the project. He's giving out more jobs than the Biden administration, right? So like for example, Jesus is King. Do you know how many people lives were changed by that album because they worked on it? Because they can say, "Yeah, I just finished the Kanye album."
Right,
Right? Don't you see that as something like massively prolific?
right, yeah. The number of people that he employ and the opportunities that he gives. Again, that was how I ended up meeting him because my daughter was like one of the top female writers on the album, and so that created an opportunity for her, but also some of my other children actually started to write, and we bring you give other people a shot. He's a very fair guy. Like, if you make a recommendation, then you say, okay, bring them in if he trusts you. So,
Right.
I think we need more of that, and of people sharing and people creating these communities around these albums, because that's what he would do. He created an entire camp, and it wasn't just about the music. It was really also about the community surrounding the music, and in that community there were a lot of great relationships built. At the same time, he has a loyal crew of producers that's been working with him on a lot of his projects. So it's not an issue of subtraction. It's really an issue of expansion and multiplication. And I like that about him in terms of like expanding and at the same time retaining the people that, you know, have been loyal to him and have been with him. So there's a lot good there.
I want to play some clips. I sent them to you earlier. I want to play some clips. I want to show the audience these clips, make a couple of comments. They're hot in the media right now. Then when I come back, I want to talk about when hip hop was Hotep, and talk about political messages in music and why we're allowed to, why we're not allowed to. Let me go. I'm going to pull up this first clip here. This is Kamala Harris, VP, and let's play the tape.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
So they go around the room and they describe themselves. Like the next woman, she says something like, "Hey, I'm wearing red." And what is this formality that, are you familiar with this formality that they're running through of having to?
It's interesting. I wouldn't say I'm familiar with it. I think she said, you know, the pronoun that she's preferring is she and her, and then she went on to say that she's wearing blue.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed to me that she's directing her statements to a particular audience, of which I wouldn't consider myself to be a member of that audience, because I don't know the language that she's speaking in, and you know, I'm not talking about English. I'm just saying there's a new vocabulary and vernacular that's been created, and you know, some people are keeping up with it and you know, understand it, and some people like myself, like I look at it and I'm like, what is she talking about? Who is she talking to? And I can only speculate, which I don't like to do that in public. So it is interesting though.
No, I it sounds to me as though they're creating something for the visually impaired, possibly. It sounds like, because she's not the only one that does it. They go around the room and they all describe what they're wearing. So I'm thinking, like, maybe they're like, this is a meeting, obviously. So they're trying to record the meeting and then give you like a live playback of visually who is what, where, and when, right? And like, okay, this is a woman. These are her pronouns. I'm wearing red, right? So I guess when years later, decade down the line, I guess somebody can come back and read that and feel like they were in the room. That's what I took away. But people are losing their mind. You know, if people want to, you know, share their pronouns and all that, so I don't really care, man. Just leave me out of it. You know, I just want to be left out of it. That's all I want. Let's go to this next clip. This is Biden's economic advisor. He says 2 negative quarters of GDP growth is not the technical definition of recession. I'm going to play this clip real fast.
Many of you have reported on. As Secretary Yellen said on Sunday, 2 negative quarters of GDP growth is not the technical definition of recession. It's not the definition that economists have traditionally relied on. There is an organization called the National Bureau of Economic Research, and what they do is they look at a broad range of data in deciding whether or not a recession has occurred. That is the problem.
All right. So I was looking for my book, my Thomas Sowell book, Basic Economics, to see exactly what it is he defines. Do I have a digital copy on my computer? I might have a digital copy on my computer. Hold up. So are you familiar with Orwell's work?
No.
Okay.
With
I
sort of Thomas Sowell and obviously Milton Friedman is good.
so
Not Keynesian.
yeah,
And ultimately, I think this is where Keynesianism leads because, what you're the guy that really did well at defining what power is,
mm,
and if my memory serves me correctly, power is the ability to really define another person's reality.
yeah, I got that from Dr. Kaba Kamene. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what, in my opinion, that they're doing. It's definitely power, and they're projecting power and really and reshaping, what we thought was reality, which was a recession is two consecutive quarters of a drop in GDP. So
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Why
we're
would
there. We've been there, but now they moved the goalpost, and we're probably gonna have 3 or 4 consecutive quarters, and we won't be in a recession. Recession is what they call a recession. If they don't call it, then it's not.
then it's not.
It's all about psychology. The economy revolves around consumer confidence, consumer psychology, which is informed by when you got control of people's minds, you got control of their psychology. So they're gonna keep spending because you told them we don't have a recession. We can't have, that's just it.
I looked on Investopedia earlier for the definition of recession, and then I read it, and it said NBER was in charge of that situation and telling us when we are in recession, and and then I was like, okay, let me see if there are older versions of this website where they potentially have changed the definition, and it seems like it has changed and evolved over time. But I noticed that September of 2019 particularly was the big switch to where it no longer meant technically. It changed the word from technically to typically. He said it's technically 2 quarters of a recession, or 2 successive months of negative GDP growth, and then that switched and said typically, and then later on they said NBER as the official. But NBER was always mentioned, but it wasn't until a newer version. So the reason why I asked about Orwell is because Orwell wrote that great book 1984, and in there they changed.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the name. Well, definitely I read 1984.
Okay, so you're familiar? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Rising up. So he talks what I actually maybe he doesn't have there's actually no definition of a recession here in this book, I don't think.
In 1984?
No, in Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell.
Oh, Thomas Sowell.
Yeah. I think because he probably assumed that the people wouldn't change the definition of what a recession is. He was just using the word, right? And then now we're in a place where I'm like, can somebody please define what a recession is? And I love that I have a digital version because I can just quickly search. Economy is rising out of recession. Is that okay? Yeah, it's just yeah, there's no damn, I wish there was. It's not even in the index. But it's all good. Yeah, because normally in the index you'll get the keywords that you can search, etc., etc. LMLPQR PQR. Yeah, it's not here. Damn. Who else would have a good definition of a recession? Maybe Mises. Mises might have. Are you familiar with Mises?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they might.
Probably one of the biggest experts on this area would be Peter Schiff. This is what with this work.
Yeah. Peter Schiff's funny. Oh, because he's anti-Bitcoin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you guys got a lot of other things that you have in common. That's not one of those things.
Yeah. No. I know Peter Schiff. He's supposed to be one of the foremost authorities on finance, etc.
And the behavior of the Federal Reserve.
You said what?
He's an expert on the behavior of the Feds, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Um, so yeah. So they're trying to pretend like we're not in a recession. Whatever. We all know we're in a recession. So next week the number is going to come out. We're going to get the GDP, and as long as they can't, as long as they get to define what a recession is, then they can just move the goalpost and say we're not in a recession. And in a way, I'm like, maybe that's good, right? Because you don't want to tell people it's a recession, and people might panic. So you just say, hey, look, no, don't worry about it. We're not in a recession. And just lie to them.
Yeah, we got 70% consumer-based economy. So they have to be careful about how the information flows out to people these days. Just don't have the productivity. So they're managing the information, the flow of information. You and I know that.
Yeah.
It's much worse, much worse than they can afford to tell the people, because I think they protect the people for their own good. But the truth will come out, and some people will be prepared, some people won't. That's just it.
Indeed. I want to go to a time when hip hop was Hotep.
Mm-hmm.
When hip hop had those conservative political messages. And then things changed. Even in our visual programming, movies, there's less of a Hotep presence. In fact, Hotep's a joke now. It's just a joke, right? The people take the term and they throw it in these Netflix series and they just toss it around, and they take the prototypical brother on this corner preaching, whatever message, and say, that is the totality of black consciousness. But it seemed like black consciousness was shifted. There was a point where we had black consciousness, which was studying Africa, which was studying Egypt, and providing some of that information. And then things got flipped. And now that is kind of laughed at and joked. Do you remember this time period when, the black community was just way more, I guess, conscious?
Yeah, definitely, and actually supported like artists that really dealt with issues, economic, geopolitical issues, black consciousness issues, and some of those rappers got older, as you know, rappers like a young man's sport. They just didn't pass it down like they should have, and really supported up and coming emerging artists. And some of the younger generation came in and redefined what is success in terms of dollars and gold chains and conspicuous consumption, rather than really serving community intellectually. But the pendulum was going to swing back, because I think a lot of people are getting frustrated with the content, and there's going to be a new resurgence of young, talented, and intelligent rappers that are really going to serve the intellectual needs of the community, conscious needs of the community, spiritual needs of the community.
My problem isn't so much that the new cats came in and made it materialism. My problem is that they're hating on the stuff that isn't that. They're hating on the consciousness. Back in the day, it was like, yeah, you had your material rap, then you had your conscious rap, but people they still respected the conscious rap. Now it's like people don't respect the consciousness, they don't respect those messages, and it's always just criticized heavily, and made fun of, and that character. Are you familiar with the character of a Hotep? Got the dashiki on, and they turn that individual into a caricature. But the funny thing is, when the Black Panther movie came out, everybody turned into that caricature for the movie release. Do you remember that?
Right.
Why is this not a costume and not a custom?
It's a very difficult landscape in terms of the competition. But true artistry is not going to be forever suppressed. It's just going to take the right individual and the right team. And you may be a part of that. So you have the vision that you're increasingly growing and you're influencing the country. You have a burden for really meeting this need. It's I see things, probably the way you see them, and I'm disappointed with what's out here. But like you said, it's only going to be a matter of time before the right team, the right people, the right artists is going to be unstoppable. And of course, the infrastructure and the support that they're going to need may look different today than it may have looked 20 or 30 years ago. We have to get involved and more in advocating for artists, fighting for the culture, and really bridging these divides, by getting involved in the label, getting involved in infrastructure, getting involved in every aspect of these young artists and emerging artists' lives. Because if we, what's the alternative if we don't? Like, it's just going to be increasingly more and more hopeless. So I'm committed, and I definitely want you to, definitely continue what you're doing, but also, let's partner together to see if we can't really pull together, some of the necessary ingredients to really launch some of these careers.
Yeah, I'm about that life. Absolutely, I'm definitely about that life. But it sounds like an editorial. Hotep, costume or custom? What is it about our people that when a Hotep say, hey, put on your ethnic garb? Because I think that's the power in a lot of these other groups. They got the ethnic garb, and it allows them to practice that visual nepotism. Right. And us, it's like, oh no, let's not wear that. Let's wear the European fashion. But when I go see the Hollywood made up stuff, okay, yeah, I'm gonna throw my dashiki on. Now it's cool when I go here. Why don't we love us? Is the white man take that from us? Did we take that from us? Is it a combination of all of it? Is it a lost history? Are we a lost people? What? Why?
It's just, again, it's going to get back to the gatekeepers and decision makers. There's a huge gap between people that have and people that have not. The way our economic structures have set up, if you can't get these gatekeepers to really make some of these critical decisions, then it's really hard for the average person to break through. It's just too much noise they have to break through to be heard. So we gotta really be able to reach these people that can make these decisions that really influence culture. Obviously Kanye, Jay-Z are big people, but there are other people that we never even hear about that are working behind the scenes, and they choose to stay behind the scenes, and they know that they really have the power to make a big difference. If you really want to influence culture, you're going to have to put some capital behind the whole marketing strategy, and that's what Disney did. Disney didn't have that kind of power, and that kind of weight. Black Panther would never have had that kind of success. It is really that machine, and we got to pour together the pieces to really come up with a plan and a strategy to really, make a difference in terms of influencing the culture. I still have hope. I have hope because I think there's a great awakening taking place right now.
Right now? What evidence are you seeing of that?
And I could see it in a lot of different places. Plus, the recession is going to wake a lot of people up as well. I think it's ultimately going to turn out to be a good thing because I think we've just been too comfortable as a people. So when hard times come, and people are going to start looking for answers, and they're going to start looking for guidance. And I think it's it's a godsend. So just, there's going to be some hard times. I think our people are really going to emerge, and this awakening is going to sweep the country, and we have to be prepared to really seize the moment and really give guidance during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, just continue to do what you do, and continue to build these bridges, and I'm optimistic.
I'm a big fan of. So, for example, people use the term propaganda, and they always use the term as a negative thing, and I'm like, propaganda is a neutral word.
Mm-hmm.
Propaganda can be good too, and you said it. You want to influence the culture, you have to throw some money behind marketing.
Right.
I always that's something I touched on. We align a lot because um, I don't think the way to influence people is to set laws or mandates. I think it can be as simple as a song or a movie or a commercial or a short. Like these things can completely change a culture.
Right.
Um,
Completely.
yeah, completely.
Especially in time, the right timing, and the right formula, the right people,
Yeah.
and throw some money behind that. And it won't take as much money as your competitor, but it's going to take some.
Yeah.
Just braving it out. Be fearless. You know what I mean? It'll happen.
Yeah, I think like Kanye, he completely changed the game, like literally. A lot of rappers wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for him, and then
Right.
they came in his footsteps. Kanye's kids, I call them.
Mm-hmm.
The style of rap that was now allowable by the listening audience, and people were ready for it.
Right.
Right. But it's again, I think Kanye had some brilliant marketing in those first two albums, specifically the titles and the visuals, et cetera, with the whole going back to school thing, or lack thereof. But yeah, I believe influencing people through the culture of things, and you kind of touched on this earlier too. Where you're talking about how conservatives underestimate the power of culture, and the left sort of completely controlled it. Said we know how powerful this thing is.
What did Miles call his movement?
Who?
Mao Zedong.
What did he call his movement? Damn, I don't know.
The Culture Revolution.
Oh yeah, you're right. He did. He damn sure did.
That was by happenstance. It wasn't coincidence. What do you think we're experiencing now? The Cultural Revolution. I always, when I look at that revolution, I always think about, wow, that's interesting. Why would Mao Zedong call it the Cultural Revolution when it was really a Marxist type, economic type new revolution? But of all things, he called it the Great Leap Forward in the early part of his administration, and then it evolved into the Cultural Revolution. And most of the world now is under the influence of that revolution, and it was, in his mind, a cultural thing. And we conservatives and Republicans, clueless. You already know.
Completely clueless, huh?
Clueless, man. They trying to argue and trying to, talk about their political theories and this and that, and it can't connect to the people emotionally where they are. And so, the liberals and Democrats run circles around them in the culture.
Yeah.
And get the young people and get everybody energized, because it's not about a debate. It's about a feeling. It's about a sense. It's about a perspective, right? And it's about perception, and it's about culture. So that's why these people really court artists, because they are the keepers of culture. They are the leaders of culture. So they're willing to spend that money, to take a stake into the careers of emerging artists and big artists. And so when people see their favorite artist saying, vote in a certain direction, guess what?
Somebody cut the check.
You. Right. That's where they get their, that's their cultural leader.
Yeah.
The great cultural revolution. While we sitting back want to have a debate with people.
Right.
They go into the concert hall and it's packed. And those numbers, really impress people. Like, all these people can't be wrong.
Indeed. That's why I never fault some of these artists that go out here and they do their entertainment for the Democrats. I never fault them. I'm like, dog, if I was them, I'd take the check too. When y'all gonna cut the check? When y'all gonna invest in y'all own artists and build y'all own artists? So like I remember Juvenile, he sold the song Back That Ass Up, but it was like Vax That Ass Up or something like that. And people criticized him. I said, look, maybe Juvie needed a check. They was ready to cut that check. I'm letting Juvie slide. I know Back That Ass Up is a classic, but hey, I'm letting Juvie slide because times is hard. But I believe I believe in people, and I believe that people aren't fooled by some of these things. And people see through some of these and they see them for exactly what it is. And they're not influenced by Juvie saying vax that ass up. Niggas like, yeah, all right, Juvie, we hear you, but no, right? Like, I believe black people do have a mind of their own. And they are not wholly controlled. But you said something earlier about feelings. And Ben Shapiro has this quote where he says, facts don't care about feelings. And I thought about that quote a lot because people say it all the time. So one day I somebody said it again, and I said, all right, let me think about this. Is this true? Do facts facts? And I said, wait, feelings don't care about facts.
Right. Two different paradigms, two different animals, right? So when you got a very feelings-based, emotional-based society that you really cultivated, that emotions matter, feelings matter above all things. People put a high premium on how they feel rather than what are the facts. And let my feelings be subject to the facts. Then you can lead them anywhere you want to go, as long as you create an atmosphere where you're really addressing those needs to feel good, those feel good needs. Mm-hmm. So it's a type of immaturity. People always have to be pacified, and people that can figure out how to pacify people, because the peace. That's why I named my company Peace Industry. Because the peace is an industry. You can market and you can cause peace to come over people's minds. I mean it in a positive way rather than negative way, but people need that calming effect. They need to feel good. And when you create an environment where people feel good, you can lead them into some crazy stuff. And that's where we're going right now. Mm. But I do like your work, your scholarship on a lot of the historical markers of communism, and I think there's going to be an opening for our people, because I think you address some of these issues in a very unique manner, in a very practical way, in a way that I think is going to resonate with people. But I think it's just it's unfortunate that a lot of our leaders haven't really addressed economic systems so that people can make a comparative analysis and really choose for themselves. Do I really want to go down the road of communism, socialism, or am I a capitalist? You got to put those two up against each other so that people can really understand the distinction. Without that, communism might sound good if it's advertised and promoted, in terms of the fairness, utopian ideas that it espouses, and really hiding the centralization of power and the destructive nature of centralized power, and historically what has happened when you put that much power in the hands of a few people. Some of these discussions have not really been in the center of the discussion of the Black community. I think you're doing a good job at raising the consciousness level in this area, so I commend you on that.
Thank you. I have a book on Mao. I haven't gotten to it. It's a real thick book, but like I told you earlier, I'm taking a look at Russian history and doing a real deep dive. I've been diving into Russian history more deep in the past 2 months than I have in all of my studies of economics. Because the more I uncover, the more I find interesting. So I'm actually now I'm diving into like individuals like Rasputin. Everybody's familiar with him. So I'm actually going to read 2 different books on him. I have one written in, I want to say it was 1918, and I'm going to read another one, which I think was written in 1948. The one I'm reading in 1918, she's basically just shitting on Rasputin through the whole book. So I'm like, all right, this is probably some leftist who didn't like this guy. But I still want it because it gives you a round picture. Like, I want to hear all sides. You hate him? All right, tell me why you hate him. Then I want to read another one and tell me like why he was great. And then let me make my decision for itself. But I haven't gotten them out yet. And I do plan on studying Chinese history after I've got some grasp over Russian history.
Yeah, they're closely related, especially Chinese modern history. It's Lenin and Stalin, they were the mentors for Mao. But it's just going to be very interesting for you to approach this subject. I know you're going to do a good. I know you've already done a good job, but I think increasingly as you study more, you're going to bring more and more fresh information to to your audience and to the greater Black community. And I think it's very important because I think a lot of this information has been hidden because a lot of the people that control the media, have a vested interest in the word not getting out about the origins of these controlled systems, because this is communism really a product of Wall Street. And you're going to uncover a lot of things and you've already uncovered a lot of things that, we could just break this down and make it simple and plain for the average person. They'll really get it very quickly.
Yeah, I find that the more I understand something, the more simply I'm able to explain it. So I'm going to be diving deep into this thing for the next 4 years. And when I come out, I'm going to be a beast. I'm going to be speaking Russian. So tell me about, you got a record label, right?
Oh, yeah. I have actually 2 labels. One label is an imprint at Roc Nation. It's called Peace Industry Music Group. And we signed a deal with Roc Nation in 2016. And just recently, I started a label that's dedicated to Black empowerment, Black consciousness, called Black Team Sport Enterprises, which is inspired by the work of Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson really preached to our community that we're not going to succeed economically until we understand that economic success is something that happens when Black people play the sport like a team sport. So he coined that phrase, and we put that into the name of the company. And we have a weekly huddle every Friday, and we're really building a community of people that are dedicated to playing the sport of economic development as a team. And I really do think that's going to be very important for us to really understand how to leverage unity as a source of power. We don't necessarily have all the monetary capital, but we have each other, and we have to figure out how we can break down some of these barriers, some of the social engineering, some of the legacy wounds and mistrust, and because if we can unite, then I think we'll have some necessary power to really make a difference.
I'm not a fan of the Jackie Robinson story, Mr. Number 42.
Yeah.
I hate his story. The ignorance in me wants to say I hate him, but that's just pure ignorance. But I have some disdain for what him and the people around him and us as a people have decided to do as far as integration is concerned.
Right.
When we talk about, okay, so we integrated on the ball field, and then we fast forward years later, and now we have black celebrities, businessmen, etc., complaining because they can't get inside that NFL boardroom. And I'm saying to myself, why'd you integrate on the field? You should have integrated in the boardroom first. No ownership. We ain't swinging that bat. We not throwing that football. We got our teams. We had a league. All we had to do, see, that's the integrate. Why didn't you integrate the leagues? And you say, okay, well, we'll figure out how to mix these teams up some way, somehow, and there would have been some equity. So I look at and this stems from a conversation I was having the other day about some kids want they want the reparations or whatever, and that's cool. But they're comparing themselves to Japan, Japanese, and the fact, Japanese got. I said, Japan was a nation and a world power. They fought a war. They fought a war at a time period where America told your black ass you wasn't even allowed to fight the war. Right? So, and we'll keep comparing ourselves to these other groups, but ignoring all of the key indicators of nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
Black people got.
I agree with you. We actually have a song on the project we're working on, talking about integration. Is it the solution, or is it the way back to the plantation? Integration was a disaster. It's a crazy idea. Theoretically it makes sense, but the application of it, the way it was applied economically, it's just disaster.
Absolutely.
But we are on the other side of the case, so we've heard all the evidence. So our verdict that we're rendering, right, we're in a better position than the people that were implementing this didn't really see how it's going to turn out. Although I don't know why they couldn't really understand the economic theory behind something like that. That it just it didn't add up, didn't make good sense.
Yeah, we got the benefit of hindsight 2020. So yeah, I always give them the benefit of the doubt as far as that's concerned. But still, now that we have the benefit of hindsight 2020 and people still don't understand those mistakes, that's really what's concerning to me. The fact that we can look back, we can see that was a mistake and still not admit it to ourselves. Like that just killed. And we keep teaching it like it was a good thing. Like, oh, we was integrated back in. I'm like, why we keep teaching this like this was a good thing? This wasn't a good thing.
Right.
But I wholly see, the problem of racism as being nepotism. Walter E. Williams tells a story about he was doing a study on taxis and taxi drivers and labor, right? And he said he went to go get a taxi. Black taxi driver picked him up in D.C. and he was talking about how it's much more expensive to get a license in New York than it was in D.C. And the guy, you heard this story before?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I know Dr. Walter E. Williams' work. Just some stuff I agree with, but when you understand the history, like of intentional colorism in terms of public policy, like decision makers literally targeted people on the basis of their skin color. That and in terms of real estate, in terms of access to capital, across the board. There's a huge body of science that influenced the way that the world is structured, based upon how black people are, how dark people are, and you can't get away from those influences and the damage that done. That that has done to our society.
Yeah.
So, which with respect to the children and low self-esteem, running away from our natural features, our hair, like it's. I mean, you can't calculate the damage. I think as an economist, economists really come up with solutions because economic theory, if it's well founded and well grounded, you overcome. It's very solutions based.
Yeah.
So you don't really look at problems in terms of like, I can't overcome that. In fact, you look at problems as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And a good economist will not, look at these things the way a a person that is a theologian or a sociologist would look at them. Or a civil rights advocate would look at them totally differently. So you and I can agree with Dr. Sowell and Walter Williams on the basis of economic theory, but they try to project economic theory into the social arena, and it don't work. They just end up looking like they don't know what they're talking about because that's not their arena. That's totally different, and that goes back to what we're talking about in terms of the cultural war. Like, you can't bring the bean counters into certain arenas because they're going to be counting stuff, and it's really not about counting the beans. It's really about the social aspect of what's going on.
Right.
And I think that we need a healthy balance, and that So I like Walter Williams as an economist, but not as a sociologist.
Yeah. So basically, how the story goes is, he says, the black taxi driver says, yeah, I wish they would raise the prices for the licenses because they got these foreigners coming in, taking our roles, right? And that story to me is the best explanation for racism, right? Mm-hmm. Here are these foreigners taking away opportunity. I got to share with these individuals, right? This is all a matter of nepotism. I would expect the white man to do whatever the white man got to do to protect his stock. And I would respect the black man to do the same thing to protect his stock, protect his brood, protect his nation. So I don't fault white people for what they did to us. I expect them to do that because that's what happens with people all across the globe. Dominant groups dominate. The majority always dominates the minority. It's just how these things work. So when he said that, I understood racism. Because you'll even have the same thing where people complain, like Tariq Nasheed, who'll complain about Africans coming here and taking away opportunity, and they're not really black Americans. And so, like, is this thing racism, or is this thing about fighting over resources? Identity.
Hunger Games. It's really rooted in protectionism, and really understanding that this whole notion of free enterprise system where everybody just gets it. The game is just everybody just gets a fair shot. That's just not how it's played. It's a race, and you got to get your team together because. It's a team sport, so you're not going to win by complaining about what other people are naturally going to do, which is to protect their interests. You got to counter that by protecting your interests. And I think what they're basically saying is that we missed that. We're complaining about people doing what they naturally are going to do, and nobody's going to stop them from protecting their family interests and identifying and fighting for their race and for their people. While we're trying to legislate morality within their ranks, we could have used that energy to build ourselves up and really protect our interests. But we leave ourselves vulnerable and thinking that it's really going to be about marching. That might be part of it, but it really is going to be about understanding how to protect your interests and how to grow your interests. And,
I think it's about how you divide up the pie, right? If I'm very. I would wish I was the dictator of the black community because we'd magically be great overnight. But I look at, we have this thing called energy, and where do we place our energy? So you could place it inward, or you could place it outward, right? And if I were to be fair, I would say, okay, I'd take a sliver of maybe 7.25% of our energy and resources and apply that to reparations and complaining about the white man. Okay, whoever want to do that work here, we're going to give 7%, 7 point. The rest of this shit is about building our economy. What are we producing? We looking at our GDP. We're looking at our GNP. We try to look at our production. What are we producing? What do we need to produce more of? Or do we have inner competition? I'm working on our economics. Now, that's just how I feel. And so when I see people go to do the reparations thing and they got these massive movements, I'm like, I feel you. Like, that's what you want to do. I ain't saying you shouldn't do that. All I'm saying is opportunity cost says, if we fast forward 10 years and you look at the work that what Hotep Nation is doing and what the work that you're doing and then the work that they're doing, we're actually going to have something to show for it. And they're going to be still sitting there wondering why they haven't gotten reparations. And even if they do get it, it's not going to look too good in the bill.
Right. The problem is that these are cottage industries. Everything is monetizable, as you know. So we got people in our community that really create industries out of these social movements, and they get taken care of very well. And they care less about the agenda for the greater black community because they're getting, they get paid very well to push these agendas. We have to really have people that are going to really be concerned about the greater community and what is that, what is the agenda that's for our people, not just for me and mine. Right. That's what we're dealing with, and we've been dealing with this for some time now, since slavery. People, pursuing their own interests, and the politicians as well, looking out for themselves and selling everybody else out. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because I believe that there are a lot of people that think like you and me that are out there. Eventually, we're gonna all get together and come up with some good solutions. And we're just gonna be unstoppable.
Griftnomics is what he was talking about, ladies and gentlemen. The grifter turning whole industries into economies. We talk about the grifter a lot on this channel. Mr. Boyd, it's been an absolute wonderful time having this conversation with you. We're obviously going to connect off of here. Shout out to Sister Samaya for connecting us. Y'all know Sister Samaya. Always bring her name up.
She's the greatest.
Oh, she's amazing. Amazing. She hits me up. She's like, Hotep, can you have this person on? Yep. I never even say no because she hasn't led me wrong yet, and she warned me about the mandates before there was even a pandemic.
Oh yeah, Sharpe as a tech.
Before it was a pandemic, they were trying to remove religious exemptions for the jibby jabby in New Jersey. Before the pandemic, they were trying to remove religious, like as if they knew something was coming. And since Samaya tipped me off, and we got her on the station and on the channel and exposed that information before people even knew what a COVID was. But yeah, man, it's been a great conversation having you, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Hold on a second. Let me close out the show. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. John D. Boyd. Make sure y'all go connect with his links in the description box. Check out his music, check out his label and his movement, and keep your eye out, because I think you're gonna see me and him working some interesting things in the future. If not the near future, the far future, but definitely, brother, I'm going to keep close to me. Hotep and Bill, make sure you subscribe to the channel.